Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's word study. we had a bit of a snowfall here in New Jersey the past few days, so I thought I would share that with you. So instead of the usual library that's behind me, this week we're going to have a snowfall. This week's study is based on Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, which says, "The meek will inherit the earth." So we're going to look at meek, we're going to look at inherit, and we're going to look at what it means when it says earth. Matthew 5:5 in the HalleluYah Scriptures reads, "Baruch," that's blessed, "are the meek, because they shall inherit the earth." The Amplified Bible expounds on the word blessed. It says, "Blessed, happy, blithesome, joyous, spiritually prosperous, with life joy and satisfaction in Elohim's favor and salvation, regardless of their outward conditions, are the meek." And it expounds on meek by saying, "the mild, patient, and long-suffering." No, we'll get to that. "For they shall inherit the earth." Now, we're gonna see how, especially the word meek in the English gives the wrong impression completely. And boy, I don't know what word would better suffice, but obviously the Otiot is the way to go. But this idea of being meek, Matthew chapter 11, verse 29 says, Yeshua speaking, says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble in heart, and you shall find rest for your beings." The King James, instead of humble there, it says lowly. That doesn't describe Yeshua for me. Anyway, Psalm 37, verse 11 says, "The meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace," that is, shalom. Psalm 25:9 says, "He leads the meek in what is right, and the meek he teaches the way," his way. Now, I'm sorry to tell you, my friends, but all these westernized interpretations of what the Father wrote in his word are honestly anemic in their presentation. They give no one any real idea of what Elohim is saying, which is why everyone always asks, what does it mean the meek will inherit the earth? Well, let's do a study that will help you to know exactly what it means to be meek and what one actually does inherit for being so. Now, first, the Greek word for meek is pros, and I want to mention that because the Greek, it's a wonderful language in that it's very precise, and you can see this word in the Greek pros in Strong's number G4239, and it means strength brought under control. That's an excellent, pros is an excellent word there. Unfortunately, they interpret it into English as meek, and, strength brought under control. I don't know that meek gives any westernized person the idea. But pros in the Greek is a word that is used to speak of horses, and that is a special kind of horse. They would say that a horse is pros, meaning a horse who is very powerful. It's a beast that is larger and more powerful than its master, and yet it will obey its master, and it will only respond to the voice of its master and none other. Now that gives you the proper idea of what should be conveyed when it says the meek will inherit the earth. Really, those who have been given free will to do whatever they want, disobey the Father as much as they please, and yet they bring their own self under control and not only obey Elohim, but none other than Elohim. Those are the ones that will inherit the earth. Now, the Aramaic Hebrew word for meek, as seen in the first covenant books, most people think of as the Old Testament, is anah, and that is from Strong's H6035. Strong says it means humble, lowly, meek, poor, and weak. Now you tell me, does lowly, poor, weak sound like a proper description of Yeshua, who says, I am meek? No, he says, I am anah. And anah does not mean humble, lowly, meek, poor, or weak. Let's look at it in the Otiot. Anah is spelled Ayin, Nun, Wa. Ayin, picture of an eye. It has to do with spiritual sight and vision. It has to do with watching. It has to do with knowing. It has to do with His Word and His Ruach converging in your soul. I always say in your living experience. When you see the word soul in the Word, replace it with living experience and see what happens. My understanding of the soul is it is a record, a recording, a book of all your living experiences recorded. That, I think, is the best understanding of what soul is. Nun, picture of a seed. It has to do with unstoppable motion. It has to do with offspring and heirs. Then finally we have Wa, picture of a tent peg, picture tent with Elohim. So, to be meek, really that is to be anah, means to be ayin, one who has spiritual sight and vision, one who watches. Yeshua always says, watch therefore, you don't know the hour in which I am coming. It has to do with one who has the Father's Word and His Ruach converging in their living experience. Nun, it has to do with one who is the seed and the heir of Yeshua. And Wa, it has to do with one who pitches their tent with Elohim. Now further, the actual word that was written down in Matthew 5:5 is an Aramaic word not found in Strong's. And that word is LaMacchia. The LaMacchia will inherit the earth. That is spelled Lamed, Mem, Kaf, Yod, Kaf, Aleph. Lamed, picture of a staff. It has to do with being a leader and a teacher of his sheep. It has to do with being a disciple of his word. Mem, picture of water. It has to do with being washed by his word. It has to do with the blood of Yeshua that he purchased his own with. Then we have Kaf, picture of an open palm. It has to do with bending, allowing, and opening oneself. It has to do with taming or subduing one's flesh nature. And it has to do with the filling of the Ruach, which comes after receiving the indwelling Ruach, Spirit of Elohim, and after being washed by and growing in His Word, one receives more and more and more of the filling of the Ruach, and that's what Kaf is all about. Then we have Yod, picture of an arm and a hand. It has to do with your work, what you make. It has to do with your actions, what you do. Then again we have Kaf. Picture of the open palm has to do with bending, allowing, and opening oneself to obedience to the Father. Has to do with taming or subduing the flesh nature, and with the filling of the Ruach. And finally, Aleph, picture of an ox head. Why an ox? Because oxen have to do with being yoked. Aleph has to do with being yoked to Abba Father Yahweh, and it has to do with being taught by Abba Father Yahweh. So, to be meek, to be LaMacchia, means to be Lamed, one who is a disciple of His Word, one of His Talmidim. It has to do with being one who is a teacher for His sheep. Mem, one who is saved by the blood of Yeshua, one who is washed by and growing in His Word every day. Kaf, one who tames and subdues their flesh, one who is receiving the filling of His Ruach. Yod, one whose work and actions reveal that Elohim is their Adon, their master. And Aleph, one who is yoked to and being taught by Abba Father Yahweh. The meek, the Anah, or the LaMacchia, will inherit the earth. The word for inherit is Nahal. That is Strong's number H5157. Strong says it means to take possession, to inherit. Fair enough. Nahal is spelled Nun Chet Lamed. Nun, once again, picture of a seed, has to do with unstoppable motion. It has to do with offspring and heirs. Then we have Chet, picture of a fence. It has to do with dividing, protecting, and surrounding. It has to do with the resurrection, the net chetef, known as the rapture. It has to do with chai, eternal life. And it has to do with the operation of the gifts of the Ruach, gifts of the Spirit. Lamed, once again, picture of a staff, has to do with being a leader and a teacher of His sheep, has to do with being a disciple of His Word. So to inherit the earth, that is, to Nahal the earth, means to be Nun, one who is the seed and the heir of Yeshua. Chet, one who will be taken in the net chetef, and one who has the gifts of the Ruach operating in them. And Lamed, one who is a disciple of His Word, one who is a teacher of His sheep. Then, what does it mean to inherit, that is, to Nahal the earth? The word for earth is aretz. Strong's number H776. Strong says it can mean earth, country, territory. Yisrael, Israel. Sheol, soil, ground, the land of the living. It goes on, and as usual, Strong's, vines, so on and so forth. They're all over the map with their many diverse and westernized definitions. But when the word says that the Anoah or the LaMacchia will Nahal the Eretz, none of those westernized definitions ever get anyone anywhere at all. Eretz, the word we see for earth, is spelled Aleph, Resh, Tzadi. Aleph, as we know, picture of an ox head. It has to do with being yoked to Abba Father Yahweh, and it has to do with being taught by Abba Father Yahweh. Resh, picture of a man's head. It has to do with who your headship is and what your thoughts are on. Tzadi, picture of a path. It is all about the way, his way. And it's all about righteousness. Those who are the Anoah or the LaMacchia will Nahal the Eretz. And that is, the heirs of Yeshua will inherit Elohim's original vision of what the earth was to be. The awesome beauty and perfection which he planned and designed in the very beginning. A world which is filled with his righteousness, and a world where all are yoked to Abba Father Yahweh, where all are on his path, knowing the way. Talk about taking away from his word. For hundreds and hundreds of years, everyone only familiar with the King James Version were taught that the lowly people were the ones who would inherit the planet Earth. There's no truth there at all. The Father's word says that those who have spiritual sight and vision, those who have the Father's word and his Ruach converging in their living experience, those who are pitching their tents with Elohim, those are the ones who will inherit, as heirs of Yeshua, the world that reveals the awesome beauty and perfection which Elohim has been planning to deliver, the world which he designed for us to experience from the very beginning. And that, my friends, is our study for this week. As always, I hope and I pray that this study is a beracha to you and yours. And, Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. And until then, shalom, my friends.
Now 2,000 years have gone by, it's another working day. Some would rather let it lie, but the question still remains.